Moving on from Manchester United, I wanted to talk a little bit about City, Nobbins, because looks like you're going to get Cherki. Loads of talk today about Ain't Nori coming in. Decent prices for the two of them as well. Excited, the right profiles to get you back into title contention?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're definitely the right names that we should be being linked with. Before like this summer window, we needed a left back, right back, at least one all-round midfielder, preferably two, and maybe a more creative option as well with De Bruyne leaving, maybe even a goalkeeper if Edison also leaves. We're being linked with the right players in the right positions. Yeah, it's wonderful. Nora, we haven't had a fit left back who's an actual left back since Kolarov. You know that's how far back we'd have to go because we signed Mendy, but he got injured immediately. It's in the interim we were playing right backs at left backs and centre backs at left backs and etc. etc. It looks like City wanted to pursue Wirtz. We got rejected seemingly, as Tom's smug face. So why not go for someone who certainly in respect to the creation numbers is also up there, but seemingly as at a fraction of the price. Very young player and yet a very experienced player in Cherki. I think he's been playing senior football since he was like 17 years old. He's been a consistent mainstay for Lyon since then. So that's a really good signing as well, if it happens. Reinders, perhaps a potential Gundogan replacement long term. Don't know what's happening with Morgan Gibbs-White there. But yeah, these are definitely the names that we want to bring in. These are the names that we want to be linked with. They're the positions that we need desperately, as I say. Like we've seen this season, the City are way off it from a winning the title perspective. The squad needs to be rebuilt. There are too many old players, but there are also too many project players, if that makes sense. We need players who are ready to go now. We need a fair few starters to go now if we want to win the title again. And obviously City do want to win the title again. So yeah, I'm very happy so far with the names that we're linked with. Of course, we have to still buy them, but it's investment that absolutely needs to happen if City want to get back to title winning ways. This rebuild should have happened maybe even 2 years ago, you might say. We got away with it last season, sorry. Or 2 seasons ago, whatever. We weren't able to get away with it last season due to injuries, due to a multitude of factors. So yeah, I'm very happy so far with the news and the rumours.
With all the news and the rumours of you getting Cherki and Reinders, the big question for me still is, where does Foden fit in all of this? Because I think it's going to be. I don't want to put him down because I like Foden. I think he's a fantastic player, but I don't think he's going to be in the 10 next season because I think Cherki's going to be there. And I look out on the left and think you've got Doku there, you've got Grealish there, you've got Savinho who can play on both sides. Do you think he will just go back out on the left going into next season?
No, I'd rather he not play than be played out wide, to be honest. It's also on him. Like, he's got to come back to the levels we know he's capable of, but let's assume that he can do that.
Yeah, but where's the balance now? You've got like Rayan Cherki's just had a 30-plus goal contribution season, been unbelievable at Lyon. Do you bring Cherki in and say, look, you've got to earn your place into this team. You're not going to be slotted straight in. And how do you kind of balance that with trying to get Foden up to scratch? Because a lot of it isn't on Pep, is it? It's on, like you said, it's on him.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a problem because we don't play with a 10. We play with 2. So we've had Foden and De Bruyne, we've had Gundogan and De Bruyne, we've had Silva and De Bruyne. So City don't tend to play with one sole interior player. We often play with 2, sometimes even 3. We might see that next season. So I don't see why you couldn't have a situation where if you wanted to play both of them as the 8-10s, you could have Foden on the left, Cherki on the right, left of centre, right of centre. That could easily happen. You could always drop Foden slightly deeper on ball if you wanted to as well. I don't really have a problem with how they would all fit together. I think it would actually fit together really nicely. I put out a potential starting 11 on my Twitter a week or so ago, and there is a really nice way to integrate all of these players. It would involve not playing any natural wide wingers, so you couldn't play Doku and Savio at the same time. But that's fine because I want to play Marmoush out on that left side, but have a left back push up so Marmoush is really playing more as a second striker. I don't mind technically having Cherki starting off the right, so long as the right back pushes up, so Cherki can actually be playing in the middle. So I don't think it's too much of a problem, to be fair. You could very easily make a very strong side, which features all of Rodri, Reinders, Foden, Cherki, and you can still have room for Marmoush and Haaland as well. It can still be a very balanced side, to be honest with you.
You're looking at Livramento as well, and he's like fantastic on the overlap.
Yeah, that would be literally would be the perfect signing for us for a number of reasons. We need a right back, of course. He's also very good, but also if City sign Reinders, Cherki, and Aït-Nouri, we are at our non-homegrown capacity. So the limit in the Premier League is 17. So if all those 3 players, right now we're at 14, if all those 3 players came in, we'd be at 17 before any outgoings. So we would, by definition, have to sign a homegrown player or sell some non-homegrown ones. But ideally, you'd do both. So yeah, he'd tick a load of boxes for all those reasons, 100%. Yeah, he's only 22 as well. So
yeah, I can see Grealish going as a homegrown player sold immediately. I can see. It wouldn't surprise me if we went in for him.
Maybe
very Tottenham move, though.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to move for his own good, and as you say, he doesn't really help the non-homegrown issue. Neither does McAtee, of course. Neither does John Stones. The players we need to be moving on are, Kovacic, who recently got an injury, so he's now probably impossible to move on because he's going to be out for a few months. We need to try to be moving on Gundogan. He's got 1 year left on the contract, potentially moving to Turkey, and also Bernardo Silva as well. Like, these are the players we really need to be thinking about moving on, especially if we're bringing in players who can play in their position. So a lot of work needs to be done for City in the window. As I say, if I can figure out the homegrown quota issue, obviously City will be able to do it. So I'd like to think that they know what they're doing there. We'll have to wait and see.
White fixes your homegrown quota, doesn't he?
What's that, sorry?
Gibbs White will fix your homegrown quota.
Well, so I would like Gibbs White, by the way. But the problem with the Premier League rules is that it's not you need a minimum number of homegrown players. It's you can have a maximum of non-homegrown players. Yeah, exactly. So absolutely, Gibbs White coming in would be great, and he would solve a potential longer-term problem. Because even next year, Savio and Kusanov, technically, right now, as far as the Premier League are concerned, are under 21 players, so they don't count. However, even though they are 21, but next year they will count and they will go on that list. So there's even more work for extra players.
Who is City looking at as their marquee signing? I mean, maybe it is Cherki. He's just cheaper, and I think I was talking about this with Chelsea the other day, and Ben Jacobs said that the lap's the number one target. And although Ekitike, we're going to get onto that later, may come in, he's more expensive. The lap was only 30 million because he had a buyout clause. He could still be the main guy. It's just you can buy him cheaper. So it could be Cherki, but obviously Wirtz was the sort of the star you were going for, but that didn't happen. He looks like he's going Liverpool. Who is the star player you link to, the man that's going to cost the big bucks, do you think, to really move the needle for you?
Probably based on the players that we've named there, Livramento would be the one who would have to cost the most amount of money if you can even convince him to get out of Newcastle. Newcastle are in the Champions League. They don't have to sell, as far as I'm aware. They seem to have a very good project there. Even if he did want to leave, they'd be demanding, I don't know, 70, 80 million pound plus for a player like it. If you think that Walker went for 50 million 8 years ago, I know he's not as good as Walker, whatever, but still, 8 years ago, he was 50 million quid. You're going to be looking at around 80 million, aren't you? For
80 million quid for the right back. The game is gone. The
well,
game is so gone. We have lost the game a long time ago for paying that much money for a right back. I don't care how good he is. Oh my god!
I know City fans are telling me 75 for Gibbs White is too much, but you want to pay 80 on the right back.
It's about needs, isn't it? And City need a right back. Everyone knows we need a right back. I've just touched on the fact that we probably need.
On loan, haven't you? You got a real recognised legend out on loan.
Chill.
After a nice little spell in Milan, reinvigorated.
We'll do a swap with Newcastle. One English right back for another, and it'll be a
and then he'll cost 90 million. But you'll get a 10 million tax for trying to cheat them out and give them Kyle Walker.
Look, we'll have to pay the piper at that point. Yeah, but look, we've got to suffer. We've not built well in our fullback areas of the past few years. We've not built well in the squad if we're having to even talk about the homegrown situation. So that's on us. We'll have to pay a premium there. But hey, if you're underpaying for a wonderful star like Cherki, then look at it as a bundle. Yeah. And total, you get like you pay overpaying for Livramento, but you're underplaying for a player like Cherki, who probably should be going for more like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 million player of his talent and quality. So I guess in price, my ideal star signing would be Livramento, but in name and player ability, it's Cherki, because I think everyone's going to really, really like watching him play if he's signed for City.
Rangers is the one that I look at with a bit of don't like City getting him, because he is mega. He's been Milan's best player this year. They've not had any really good players, but he's been their best player in big games where Milan have done well. It's always Rangers who's popped up at the moment or ran the game. The fact you're getting him is more of a concern for me than a Cherki. I know Cherki's dead good and he done really well against Man United in the Europa League, and he's got good numbers and this, that, and the other. But those type of players are a little bit more of a gamble. Reinders is just, I think he's got all the minerals to come in and just be one of them best midfield. I'll put it like this: he's got the chance to be as transformational as Bernardo Silva was when he moved into midfield for City.
And I think that, to be fair, I totally agree that's a different question entirely. Like we were talking about star players, but who's going to be the most transformative player? And I do totally agree with that. To be fair, Tom, if we think about what was City's midfield this year off ball, it was primarily Kova Gundogan, Kova Bernardo, some combination therein. That's one of the worst out of possession midfields in the whole Premier League. It's not particularly good on ball either. And next year it could be Rodri Reinders. Now that is a ridiculous upgrade to go from that to the other. So I do take your point that Reinders, from a transformative perspective, would probably be the one. Cherki is more of like a cherry on top signing, I guess. This is why I wasn't too concerned about the Wirtz situation, because before we even touch on getting a 10, I want to get my fullback sorted. I want to get my 8s sorted. If I'm baking a cake, I need to make sure I have flour and eggs before I start buying Mangino cherries. Do you know what I mean? I can't.
Would that not need 115 sorting though? Are we ever going to hear on that?
What's that, sorry?
Will 115 ever be sorted? Surely that would be more foundational in that cake mixture.
Well,
115. You think 115 is getting sorted after all these years?
Well, indeed. Well, that's the potential rat poison, isn't it? We don't know what's going on there yet. We'll have to wait and see. Of course,
going to be next year anyway.
It's not going to happen anytime soon. And if it does happen, then this whole conversation is null and void. So I've sort of got to operate under the assumption that it's not going to happen.
If 115 was a serious concern, players wouldn't be joining Man City.
Precisely, that's what I'm saying. Like, at what point are we actually going to do it?
Well, they would have been given representations, wouldn't they? Because there's no way a player signs for City now and doesn't have the conversation with their agents and go, right, but this has all happened. So they would be reassured, even if it's not, because I think like Sam Lee of The Athletic said that there's no contracts. Sorry, there's no City players with contracts who have like a specific 115 clause. However, from a legal perspective, if you negotiate under the pretense of we aren't guilty, haven't done anything wrong, and then you get found guilty, then that's cause for misrepresentation and that makes the whole contract null and void. So then they'll be able to leave. Yeah. So they'll be chill from like a legal perspective.
I just I wanted to have a couple more bad years. I had so much fun with you being crap this year because it hasn't happened for ages.
I'm watching
Pep. Benjamin Sesko. Oh no, I'm more worried about that midfield getting rebuilt. If you had Gibbs White as well on tax, I know that the stuff has sort of cooled a little bit on him, but I remember seeing that Ornstein said he was a top target if you don't get Wirtz. If you can field a midfield next year of Morgan Gibbs White, Reinders, and Rodri, and then when you're against the really crap teams, you can go, you know what, we can rest one of Gibbs White or Reinders. We'll put Cherki in the midfield. We'll put Foden in the midfield. We'll just go and dominate them like that. Where you got killed this year was your midfield got ran through by everyone. Anyone and everyone could get through that midfield because Gundogan and Bernardo Silva could not hack it anymore. You're now getting, if you get Gibbs White, Reinders, and Rodri, you're getting 3 of the best athletes. Is one of the big things. You're getting 3 incredible athletes. Provided Rodri is back to his levels after that ACL. You're getting 3 ridiculously good athletes who can cover ground, get up and down for 90 minutes, win their duels, can carry the ball up the pitch. It fixes all the problems you had in your midfield. Now, there's still the big thing I have that I do think it's very Haaland-centric. Now, albeit there's a good problem to have. my striker's very good at scoring goals. We want to give him the ball as much. If he does go through these periods where he's not getting the goals, is the system designed for others to get it? But that's a side problem. The fact is, your big problem was your midfield was so easy to get through, and you could get battered in the midfield, and you were losing so many midfield battles against teams that shouldn't be winning it. And now you've just decided, you know what? We're not going to lose. Very few teams will beat us in a midfield battle next year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So if we went to like a team of the season that we like debate about, and we get to like the midfield section, normally like we all agree that, you know, at least 2 of the 3 players are City players, for example. You know, that's how strong City's midfield has been under Pep. It's the core of their side. And you're quite right, Tom. This year it's been one of the worst in the entire Premier League. But now with names like, you know, Rodri, Reinders, Nico G, Foden, Gibbs White, Cherki, we can even add Bob into that, Echeverry perhaps. All of a sudden it turns to one of the best midfielders in the world, arguably. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be an interesting year for Man City, no doubt. Give us your thoughts and opinions. Will Cherki get a chance to express? A few people are suggesting that Pep Guardiola might suffocate him with tiki-taka and process.
Yeah, I feel like, look, as much as I've defended Grealish at this club, he's done irreparable damage to Guardiola's image, because I don't know where this comes from that Pep like stifles creativity. I mean, look at the sides he's had under his tenure, and look at the players that he's coached and managed. Like players
can I step in as a United fan? I want to step in. You're a City fan saying it. Grealish, I used to have people on here tell me, no. This is why it happens. City fans created this, not Pep. Grealish ain't done the damage City fans did. The same as Liverpool fans when they used to say, no, Klopp tells Trent not to track his runners, to leave his men. So if we win it back, he's ready to counter. They used to lie for him. The same as City fans would lie for Grealish. No, he's not taking people on, Terry, and shooting or crossing, because his job is to sit out wide, drag loads of people out and create space for others. It's not that Pep is telling him to not be flary, not to be creative, not to use his skills. It's not Grealish, it's the manager's tactics. They lied for him. Essentially, he just didn't deliver. And I always used to laugh. I was like, hang on. But as soon as I see Doku come on, Savio joined the club, Foden would come onto the pitch, Mahrez, they're all taking people on. What? Just Jack Grealish is told, don't take a man on. It is a load of nonsense. It is purely a narrative created to defend Jack Grealish. So, yeah, I blame your fans because they lied. It wasn't Grealish.
Sure. And again, I think that some people do go the other way of Grealish, but yeah, this whole thing of he's Pep's telling him not to take his match. I mean, even if you watch him for Aston Villa, he was never really that sort of player anyway. It's Grealish's own fault, and again, I'm a big Grealish defender and fan, but it is his own fault that he never became as direct as he should have been at City. And again, you look at Doku, you look at Savio, all the other wide players that Pep's coached over the years, whether it's Messi or Pedro or Ribéry or Robben or Sane or Sterling or Doku or Savio. But the message is that, he doesn't like wide players. We know that's not the case, don't we? And like Pep's managed the 2 objectively greatest playmakers of modern football era in Messi and De Bruyne. And people are saying that he stifles creativity. It's just not. It's just not.
I mean, I just look at Mahrez. I know we mentioned him. Mahrez and that City team. Mahrez and Sane were the ones that were Mahrez to a lesser extent, but they were given the freedom to do what they wanted when they were on the pitch. And that was why when I saw Liverpool up against City, they used to scare me more than most because they were the ones that had the license. I think the biggest misconception is Pep will give freedom to a player who deserves the freedom. He's not going to give freedom to a player who's just going to be a liability if they have it. But if a player like a Mahrez can be so impactful when he's allowed to be free, he'll let him do what he wants.
It's just output.
Grealish has never had that output to warrant being free.
This is the thing. A manager like Pep will let someone like Messi essentially walk around a football pitch because the output is so high, you can get away with it. The problem is you can't afford passengers when there isn't something massive at the end of it. You can't allow someone to express themselves loads if at the end of it, the crosses are not good enough, the shots are not good enough. They've got to pass the ball to other people. Otherwise, you're not going to score goals. But yeah, I think Cherki will be okay personally. Viewers.